This has actually got to take the biscuit now. This really has to take the biscuit. I'd actually heard lay members of committees mentioned in one of the reports that I've been reading, right? But I didn't fully click exactly to what's going on, right? So they were introduced only in 2012, right? They were only introduced in 2012. So that's actually after, I think that's after the Gordon Brown government. It's actually only around the time when the new model for the Petitions Committee has really properly been working under the Cameron government, which really, Gordon Brown and Tony Blair did the Number 10 website, but passing off petitions to different departments is wrong when MPs are supposed to decide on the validity of them and they're supposed to be in the petitions bag in Parliament, elected members. It's a judicial process, right? Not just the Prime Minister himself to pass them off to different departments. That's not judicial at all to do with elected Parliament members, right? So committees which actually govern the behaviour of other, the judicial committees are judicial, really, make judicial decisions of all Parliament. So they've managed to get these lay members in from 2012 onwards, right? They're not elected. We didn't elect them. So I don't know how they end up on there and the selection process. But if you've got a Labour government or something like that, who won't even have an inquiry into themselves when you get 3 million signatures, right? And if that doesn't appear that there should be an inquiry to a minister, I don't know what does, right? Then the government actually has been infiltrated. I didn't actually realise how bad this was since 2012. This is actually primarily for the Standards Committee, but no one's elected these people, regardless of if they're professors or if they've got honours or not. So it was introduced in 2012. Individuals from outside Parliament were first introduced to the House of Commons Committee on Standards in 2012. This edition followed recommendations from Independent Committee on Standards in Public Life. Now, this is the thing, right? Standards is things like the behaviour and conduct of MPs, which you cannot go to the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman about, right? You can't. The Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman can't take action against MPs, but it can against Parliament and the government, some functions of the Speaker. But the Petitions Committee, when I tried to get action against it, the Ombudsman said they didn't deal with it, but it's co-owned by the government and Parliament. It's run from the Leader of the House of Commons office, the computer system, and none of the members on that Petitions Committee who check petitions are elected either, but they're on about 900 quid a week, right? And there could be 4 of them. It suggests there are 4 of them, right? They're not. They are almost like these lay members of these committees. They weren't elected, but they're making judicial decisions, and they don't swear an oath either, I don't think. They're not a proper clerk of Parliament either. Not as clerk of Parliament's go. They're not appointed by the King, that's for sure. And the policy of the Petitions Committee is only a general policy signed by the leader and the chairman, right? It's not even law. And they're actually withholding and denying our rights on that committee of petitions. It's a highest judicial and most important ancient judicial process there is, really. It's actually more important and higher than the Supreme Court and the High Court, really, the petitions to the House of Commons. And they're treating us like babies, like children, and they're not even granting us our privileges. They're not allowing us to share petitions. They've reordered it, so it's almost like you've submitted it before you've completed it, and then they decide whether you can share it or not, which there's absolutely no restriction. And even when there was a restriction through the Tumultuous Petitioning Act, you could get a jury to decide which is actually members of the public, randomly chosen, but not these 4 members who are full-time, who no one really properly knows who they are, and they were selected specially. That's not like a random, that's not how courts work and how justice works anyway. A jury works because it's selected at random, right? And people are randomly selected without any bias, and they can be advised by the judge, but they can make their own decisions, right? These persons working for the Petitions Committee at the moment are heavily biased, and they're seeking advice from departments. Governmental departments aren't elected. Only the Secretary of State is. And it's a judicial matter. When you put a petition to Parliament, to the House of Commons chamber, right, all of them are elected and sworn in. It's still a judicial body. And when petitions are laid to the Speaker's bag and read out and put on the record, it is as if it's a court. Now, what they're doing is they're palming us off with people who aren't sworn in and who are biased, and they're even going to government departments. You might be opposed to that department. In fact, you might be trying to get that department stopped from doing something it's not supposed to do, right? No wonder they're not allowing it. So it really is actually ridiculous. Now, one thing I know about these laypersons, right? It would be all right if we actually elected them to start with, right? Now, here's a select committee for standards. Now, this Alberto Costa guy is the chair. This Alberto Costa is the chair of the standards committee. Committee on Standards, Alberto Costa, the chair. But he's also the chair of the Privileges Committee. Alberto Costa is the chair of the Privileges Committee and the Standards Committee. How does this man find time? He must be more active. It's amazing that he hasn't got an award like Jamie Stone for Best MP, or already been knighted like Sir Lindsay Hoyle, for service to Parliament. He's on 2 committees, probably the most important 2 committees, Privileges and Standards. How does he find the time? Is that not a bit biased? Is Alberto Costa even knowledgeable and experienced enough, right? Two committees, how does this man find the time, right? And then on this, the thing is, I can actually contact Alberto Costa and I can actually ring him up, right, and contact him. But there's no, look at this. I'm clicking on the lay members. You can't contact them. If the lay members are members of the Standards Committee, surely you should be able to contact them personally and put a grievance to them, not just email standards, right? Professor Michael Maguire, I can't contact him, right? Muhammad Mahan, Victoria Smith, lay member. Then we've got Sir Francis Habgood, another lay member, right? Dr. Rosemary Parr, another lay member. Dr. Dave Stirling, another lay member. Carys Williams, another lay member, right? Paula Barker, Labour Party. Jill Furness, Labour Party. Anne Sabir MP, Liberal Democrat. Dr. Neil Sastry-Hurst, Conservative. Gareth Snell, Labour. And Michael Wheeler, Labour. Still mostly Labour, right? Now, one thing that the Standards Committee needs to start with is, why is there a petition with 3 million people signed it who want something done about the Labour Party misleading all electors, right, in the election? So much that Keir Starmer called off the local elections because he doesn't want to lose, right? So he's taking it seriously to call the elections off because he knows that they're not happy, right? At the Runcorn and Helsby by-election, Labour abstained. They protested. They did not turn out to vote at Runcorn Helsby. In very few numbers they turned out. And Reform had converted many Conservative voters over to Reform more than the previous election, only because Nigel Farage has been on GB News, been a presenter. He's been having all sports personalities on. Even Priti Patel's been on there. The Monster Raven Looney Party leader. All these sports stars, comedians, Jim Davidson. They've all been giving him their blessing, right? Oh, Farage is all right. You can trust him, Farage. You can believe in him. No political party with any funding at all, or any flyers through letterboxes, or any advertisements or whatever, suddenly pops up on the radar and goes bigger than the Greens and Lib Dem, because the Greens and Lib Dem are very well-funded, long-established parties, right? You've got to have some of a kind of edge to it, right? Now, Reform UK have been doing their campaigns, right? But, additionally, Nigel Farage was made a presenter on entertainment And the benefits from that have not been acknowledged in the spending fund. It's nothing to do with implied spending. It's nothing to do with notional spending. And it's nothing to do with, implied repeal of legislation, right? If there was any repeal of legislation around this area, there would not be any rules. There would not be any point in regulating the election, right? The rules that we're talking about are rules that without them, there is no contest or competition. You don't get rid of the rules of a race that everyone starts off at the start line, right? Okay, they've got stepped start lines, right? But that's only because the finish lines, right, all line up to it, and because of the circular trajectory of the circumference and diameters and so forth, the radius and circumference of the track, right? You don't have a horse race and have one contestant set off like 1 metre from the finish line, right? It evades the point of it, right? We're talking about rules in elections that are there without, these are not, it's got nothing to do with implied repeal. In fact, they've been building on these laws, keeping and adding to them, including broadcasting from abroad, which can't be possible under foreign law, because how can you run an English election under English law if it's been run by something that's run under American law? It's ridiculous, right? Farage is converting and gaining the confidence in the public through the additional boost of GB News. And he's trying to make out that that's not the reason why his party's getting more votes and winning, right? Through talking pints and various other things. And it's the particular guest that he's getting on to win the public over, right? So they're cheating. Now, the Labour Party have got that massive petition of 3 million signatures, right? There is no minister in this government that cannot appear to them to merit a public inquiry. There's never been an issue with 3 million signatures in writing. I don't even think Hillsborough had it in writing. They're having inquiries into things that have got less actual signatures in writing, official, documented people wanting action done. Now, none of the Labour ministers are going to action an investigation into themselves, let alone the Labour Party itself, right? They're not going to do it. And shadow ministers aren't proper ministers, so they can initiate an inquiry, right? Only the ministers can. Now, then we've got this issue of the assisted dying, right? Now, it is illegal for religious reasons, but not just faith religious reasons, for legal religious reasons, because there is a place in the Parliament of England, in the written letter and word of the law, right, that has a meaning. And if you cannot obey and comply that meaning and understand what it is, then you don't believe in law. Because actually, legally, in law, law comes actually from God and from religion, because it's actually meant to be the divine power of God. It claims that it is. It claims that it's God's divine power. It claims that it is the divine power and with the grace of God by which the law comes into force, right? So if God's word is in the law and God is the word, which, it says, and remember we've got the Confirmation and Ratification Act, it's got nothing to do with whether you're a Christian or not. The Liberal Democrats are against religion now. They don't like Christianity, right, because it doesn't allow them their new radical ways of thinking, which aren't even, they don't actually believe. The Lib Dems no longer believe in this government, its foundations, and what even law is. They just want to write a set of rules out and make everyone follow them. And most of their rules are nonsensical now. Like, right, sexual discrimination. You can't make a decision, right, based on someone's sex, right, because that's discriminating them if you exclude them. So how can you have an abortion because you don't like the sex of it? right? And then they claim that they've got freedom of expression and they're all into EU law, which they're not, because every different freedom of expression has been taken away one by one. So that's a lie, right? It's every single, what they're doing now is they're putting too much law through too quickly, and there's too many people expressing opinions in mass on social media, which is confusing different MPs, and they're snowballing now really quick, and it's getting chaotic because they're going too quick, so they can't really untangle what they're doing and make sense of it as fast as they're doing it, and the contradictions are coming up so quickly that they're making a mess now, and they need to stop. Right now, as for the oath is so help me God, right? Now, if God's going to help you, he isn't going to help you if you're not following his commandments, right? Particularly when they're within the word and letter of the law. They need to have that dispute and argument in the standards committee. They need to have it, and it could be perjury. Past parliaments there are plenty of historical accounts of lots of cases of perjury, treason, all sorts in parliament. We never have any of them anymore because MPs aren't following the rules. George Galloway admitted and confessed perjury, right? He admitted it. I sent a complaint in to the House of Lords, to the Attorney General. Nothing's been done about it. Now, if you can't get action against a member, even if they're a past member, for an offence at the time, right, past offence of perjury, when they admitted it, which is very serious, if you can't get action against someone when they admit doing something very serious, right, then you can't get action at all, which means that they're not taking the oath seriously and they don't believe in it. They're not taking the power of the law seriously, and they don't actually take the government seriously yet. We see video after video with the speaker in the ceremony and the mace, and then they walk up to the speaker and they nod, they bow and they nod, and then the clerk, little good behaved clerk comes over, right, with the paperwork to read out for the speaker. They're doing this ceremonial action, right, but they're doing it kind of like religiously, but they don't actually believe in it. And they'll end up like the Senate, where it's just some business meeting with everyone around with a computer, right? A computer desk, other than in a circle. Doesn't that look very Celtic? Well, actually, it's not. It looks like more like a corporate business meeting, right? Or from Spectre or something, right? It looks like a business office, some executive business office, not an ancient institution where people have argued and debated things and, are we getting the right people in here, right? Or, maybe if we're going to do something, we shouldn't have those people sat around with computers. Maybe we should just have people vote, and then they do the ceremony and read it out in Parliament, read out what the people voted, something like that, because I vote to keep Parliament. It's the people in there that are causing the problems. Kim Leadbeater is in perjury of her oath, and Lord Falconer as well. Now, if they're not going to do anything against Galloway when he admitted perjury, they're not going to do anything against these people. You can complain to the Lord Spiritual, you can complain to King Charles, right? And you can complain to the chaplains in Parliament. Are these people just fakes now? Are they fakes? Are they just fake? And why can't I contact these lay members on here, each person? Why can't I express my grievance to them like this, right? Why can I not speak to them individually and express my grievance? And what is Alberto Costa doing? What is Alberto Costa doing in front of the chair of the main two committees? Privileges and standards. I just don't get it. We need to undo all this, the Petitions Committee is meant to be now modernised and relaxed. It's not. They're blocking absolutely everything, right? And then in Scotland, they're going, we accept petitions of all languages now, any language. Well, what about poor languages, languages of poor people, the expressions of poor people? What type, they call it a language, right? Now, they don't allow any offending petitions, right, or anything offensive. Like, I've never put a swear word in a petition ever, right? But they're saying they allow all forms of language, which means all forms of communication. What if you're like Jason Williamson on the Sleaford Mods? Jason Williamson on the Sleaford Mods is an artiste, a music artist, right? He was kicked out of the Labour Party. He has a working class expression. It's a language. In fact, in the Town and Country Planning Act, any word, letter, sign, model or representation, right? So it can be abstract representation. It even says that in the Parliamentary Papers Act cases that you can make a representation can be abstract, right? So if you are from the streets, right, and if you're poor, and if that's the way you talk, right, to your other peers, right, it's just your way of expressing yourself, like in a Jason Williamson rap or something, right? That is your language, it's your lingo, right? It's how you express yourself in it, right? Now, the Scottish Parliament, this is like the assisted dying thing. This is the same essential underlying basis of logic, right? Oh, right, we're getting rid of all sexual discrimination, but we're going to allow people to abort their baby because they don't like the sex, right? If that isn't the conceiving of sexual discrimination, I don't know what is, right? So the Scottish Parliament, they want to appear all wokey-dokey, right? And all Lib Dem, Green Party, SNP woke, like, we're modern, loose as the goose, right? Loose as the goose, right? Oh, we accept all languages now, any language, right? Send it in, any petition in any language will accept it, right? Oh, but not poor man's language, not poor man's talk, not those forms of representation, right? Not Jason Williamson lingo, right? Oh, it's got to be respectable, right? This is the thing, but no, we accept all languages. Well, why do you accept all languages? Because that is the way certain people talk. That is the way certain people communicate with each other, right? That is their lingo. So, but they're not accepting all forms of languages. So we don't want, discriminating language. But you're going to translate it anyway. This is the thing, right? If someone sends it in, in Siamese, right, or in, Indonesian writing, or in Chinese writing, right, or in, Aztec, right, they're going to translate it. So if you did send it in, rudimentary language or offensive language, then they could just say, well, that's a different language, and we'll translate it as if it was, Australian or something, right? Or what did he actually mean? What did he really mean? We'll just put it in like more polite terms as we like, right? Which is not what they're doing in the Petitions Committee in Parliament at the moment, in the Commons, right? Oh, you can't have that, but you could have it like this. Oh, so you understood what I meant then? Well, you translate into what you think it means then, right? And we'll have both of the translations at the side of each other, right? We'll have the original making the point, Axe Keir Starmer's pension plan. Oh, you can't have that. It mentions an MP's name. That's the name of the act of law. How did he manage to get it through himself? Can he even have an act of law in his own name? You can ask for any law to be changed or repealed, but not one with an MP's name. It's privileged, is it? Right? That's a good idea. Maybe we could get the Assisted Suicide Act through with the Kim Leadbeater Act. It can never be repealed because you can't petition about it because you can't mention her name, right? You can't mention Kim Leadbeater, right? We're being conned by these people, and what it is government strategy to try to defeat the voter. It's political parties are trying to beat us. And they're trying to beat us by blocking people out of things like election petitions and things like that, right? And they're pretending, right? Pretending to look like they're being all-inclusive, right? It's called inclusion and diversity. We're going to include everyone and be diverse. Well, why don't you include Jason Williamson, and his offensive rap? That's inclusion and diversity. Oh, no, not that, though, but not that, right? So it's not inclusion and diversity. It's like the young parliament, right? What MPs want to do, right, is that they want to say, oh, right, we're respectable, we got elected, we're the good guys, and we're going to invite nice little well-behaved children on there and pleasant people that we want to interact with, and we're going to include them and have diversity. In fact, why not have 4-year-olds in Parliament, right? Let's have a kindergarten Parliament with nappies, right? They're well-behaved. And then anyone who might beat us, right, in our points or absolutely annihilate and thrash us, right, we don't want them in there because they might win, right? But, or people who might use language that can make a valid point and get it across, like, Axe Keir Starmer's pension plan, right? That's the name of the act, right? But, it's not inclusion and diversity. It's not against sexual discrimination. And if they're just doing it to wind us up, to provoke a reaction, then, it's annoying a lot of people and causing a lot more protest and upset around the country, So there are so many issues. Privileges at the moment are being ignored, undermined. Thatcher tried to remove them out of the procedure manual. Starmer's never acknowledged them in his career in the CPS because it involves contempt, and no prosecutor wants to be at the receiving end of contempt. They're not even punishing other members of Parliament for perjury now when they admit they've done it, right? And they're all acting unlawfully. And it's got to a point now where Parliaments used to be only every few years, or only once every so many years, right? And now with communication, they're going too quick and they're not thinking it through properly. They're rushing, right? And they're trying to keep up with technology when really the humans are overtaking themselves, and then they're having to get AI to try and do it quicker, right? But then it's not a human who makes a decision. And one thing they won't do is slow down, and they're telling us to slow down, like in 20-mile-an-hour speed limits when nobody wants them. When they signed a petition, to have a proper vote on that, which they won't give them the vote, right? And the MPs won't slow down because people need time to think about things, and they're not actually putting any thinking time into it. And now Jamie Stone, right? He's won an award for Best MP. He's cancelled his surgeries, right, in Scotland, so he could go vote in his assisted dying bill he's supporting, right, with Kim Leadbeater, right? He's turning up at radio stations all over, the coast of Scotland in person just to open a new radio station, a bit of publicity for himself, right? Doing all these pantomime sketches as well, right? But if we could get petitions published, people, you've got a good petition when people want to sign it, right? Now, I've submitted petitions that I know people are going to sign it because they like the language. It means something to them. It's normal person language, common person language, right? Now, this is the thing. To get someone behind a petition, they've got to support it and they've got to like it, right? Now, there are petitions that I know that is something the government can do. And what language do I want to submit it in? I want to submit it in language that will attract common people to sign and support it. Because I know that the title of it will attract them to sign it. I like that. I really like that. I'll sign it, right? But Parliament don't like it because we're going to beat them with it, right? So they don't allow it. Yeah, it's in the language which people can relate to, right? And this is what Scottish Parliament are claiming. Oh, we accept all languages that people from, well, we're in England, people are supposed to be speaking English, right? Anyone would think that it's a world petition site. Well, it might as well be, except not people in England who are in poverty and hard off and poor, or like Jason Williamson, no slang. Well, you can always translate it. But oddly enough, if people sign it, then isn't it good for the signatures, right? If you publish it and people like it and sign it, that means they support it. It's more supportable, right? Now, these are the ones that are not allowing us to share before it's fully officially completed. And it would have been a jury. What happens if it's a jury in Birmingham? What happens if it's a jury in, Croxteth in Liverpool? What happens if it's a jury in Walsall, right? They'll approve it. If it's good enough for the jury in Walsall, it's good enough for anyone to sign and share it. Not for anonymous, overpaid people who are on about, £1,000 a week who are not they're not magistrates. They're not ministers, they're not MPs, they haven't had judicial training, they just ask a department which you're trying to, stop and oppose and change, which might not be they might not want you to stop, oppose or change it, right? We're being infiltrated, and now they've even got people on these select committees. They're not even members of parliament, they weren't even elected, and who's even choosing them? Is there a competition for that? A fair competition? You would have thought we could have some elections for that as well. You'd have thought that, seeing though it's the all-important select committee of standards for all of England, you'd have, some people down on the form when you go to the polling station. In America, you can vote for the mayor, sheriff, attorney generals, all these people. We haven't even got an attorney general who we voted for. We're getting tricked and fleeced. Now, the main thing at the moment is this religious issue, but it's a legal issue with the oath and what even is law. Not like, what is it officially declared as? Whether you believe it or not, it's declared as, some people might not believe that Charles is the King of England or should be, but, it's taken for, right? This is the thing, he's officially recognised as the King of England, so that's it, right? In the law, it's officially declared and recognised that the law is enacted through the divine power and grace of God, and that's why you swear an oath of it, right? Now, if there is no power, no one has to obey and follow the law. Now, one thing that Jamie Stone and Kim Leadbeater don't seem to understand is, if you don't believe in law and that there's a power behind it that people have to obey, why be an MP? Why get into the business of making law? Because you don't really believe in the power behind it. You just want, really, I want a bunch of rules that people can do this or that. But you don't even, it's not just a bunch of rules. It's not snakes and ladders. It actually is meant to be something, right, which is declared legally as, right? And this is the problem. Now, I don't even know how to get through to this select committee other than the email. I wanted to actually contact some members directly and leave some telephone messages, right? And I found, oh, look, it's Alberto Costa again. Just the guy I was looking for when I was trying to find out who was in charge of the Privileges Committee, because privileges are very important at the moment. I've been studying them since 2013. I don't think Alberto has, but he ended up in charge of the Privileges Committee. Not that they've been enforcing them with us or allowing them, right? Even though it's in the manual of procedure in public business to claim them through Parliament, right? And this guy's in charge of the Standards Committee as well. How has he not already got the award? Maybe he has, maybe I missed it. How come he's not already been knighted? He's in charge of the two main important committees of Parliament, how does one become an expert in privileges? Oh, probably because they've got Professor Michael Maguire there and Dr. Francis Habgood. That's probably why, this is the thing. We need action against these members. There was a 20-member vote difference in getting this assisted dying bill through. That means that there was only 20 members in favour of it extra, right? All of the people who voted in favour of that bill, right, should be up for perjury and contempt. How can we prove that? Well, we can't prosecute these people in the courts, right? So you would do a petition about it, right, wouldn't you? But they're not allowing the petition. If I put a petition on the petitions committee, right, that I want perjury action against everyone who voted for assisted dying bill, Jamie Stone won't publish it. Those 4 unknown people on £900 a week who aren't sworn in and they're not a jury won't publish it, right? The Committee of Standards aren't going to do anything. I submitted a very good standard affidavit to the House of Lords against George Galloway, right, for perjury. Nothing's been done about it by the Attorney General. He admitted that. He wasn't even hard to prove because he self-confessed, right? Now, if they're not going to act on that, what are they going to act on? Then actually they're unruly. There is no control over these people. The Standards Committee are doing nothing for standards. Nothing. There is no law being upheld. MPs cannot just do anything or put any law through. There is the confirmation of the Charters Act, the Charter of Liberties, Magna Carta, the Ancient Liberties of London, even older, which aren't being upheld at the moment, right? And Judge Swift, who worked for the Corporation of London, right, sat the case with the Mayor of London case, like, you know, whose side's he going to be on when he's already worked for the government backing them on that? He shouldn't have sat that case. The Ancient Liberties of London actually are still open to be proved in court, and that case cannot be valid, right? There are lots of issues at the moment. These people are going too fast. They're not experienced enough, even with these other people advising them, right? And they're not punishing members or each other. They're actually, you know, the worst they do is get Boris Johnson to step down, right? You know, that's about it. Where are all these, you know, they're not even using the contempt powers. The Culture and Media Sport Committee have got contempt powers set up to use, right? And the Electoral Commission have got these takedown notices, which they're not even using when, you know, reform break the law, right? Where are the restoration notices? No one's helping us with privileges. Parliament, I've never actually even read in the archives or history a worse parliament than this. The absolute illegality of the criminality of it and the corruption. You can't have a situation where a petition would easily bring evidence that there should be an inquiry because so many people support it and have complained. But because all of the ministers who can start the inquiry are on a certain team and party, Labour, that they will initiate the inquiry. So that is the model for corruption, right? That is a process for solving a problem, right? Here is a process we've got set up to solve problems. Let's have an inquiry into it, right? And if there's a very large number of people come forward, want one, or say there's a problem, and it appears to us that we're not blind and we notice that, we'll have one. But, the problem is us. It's us, our team, and every member of the team who the problem's accused against are the only ones who can initiate the problem to be sorted out. Right, that is a dysfunctional model, a dysfunctional family, a dysfunctional parliament party, a dysfunctional government, because they're resisting the solution because they are the problem, right? And the mechanism to sort it out cannot work, because in order to push the button to start an inquiry, right, the only person who can push the button in the game are the people who are being complained about, right, not the complainee, right? All the people have signed the petition. It's been submitted. It's up there, 3,087,000 whatever signatures, right? Where's the initiation button? Labour aren't pressing it, right? Oh, better, you know, Rachel Reeves will have to give them the winter allowance back now. Like, oh no, it's a bit more serious than that, Rachel. You misrepresented and misled in the election. And the Electoral Commission aren't doing anything about reform, and they've already procured about 3 or 4 seats in Parliament using GB News to convert Tories over, because Labour aren't voting for them, right? They didn't even turn up at Runcorn Helsby. This Parliament have got extremely serious problems because they're of a new culture, a corporate business executive model where this is not a parliament in a democracy where people vote. It's like someone owns it and someone's put in charge, and then we make up strategies and executive orders so we can win, and everyone makes money, and that's it, right? Not that, the people aren't happy and they want something done about it and it's your fault. This is the thing, right? So we'll have to ban strategies, because what they're strategizing against the people who are putting them there. They're strategizing against how they can get into the government and win, rather than how they can just run a good government, right? Run a good country, or do things that the people want. And if there's a period of confusion and chaos, and if they're going too fast, and if they're starting to enact laws which do not make sense, like, you very, very strong on sexual discrimination, but then, right, you can scrap it if you don't like it if it's a boy or a girl, right? This is the thing. It's nonsensical. And if they do that to actually make a point out of it, they're using law not actually to govern the country, but they're actually using law as an advertisement or some kind of promotional. The law isn't there to be used as a persuasive bargaining chip, to sell a position. It's meant to be there because, something should be illegal or it shouldn't be illegal, right? That's the thing. I don't have faith in this select committee for standards or the privileges committee. Something needs to be done. We need criminal action against Kim Leadbeater, against Lord Falconer, through their respective houses, right? They're committing perjury. All of the people who voted for the assisted dying bill need legal action. And if it's not done by the Committee of Standards, then we need the law lords to act, or we need to take them to the Supreme Court. And, if 3 million signatures from Michael Westwood can't do it, I don't bloody well know what will do it. I don't know what will do it, because, things have been done, we've had past speakers of Parliament, arrested. There's been treasons, perjuries, Tony Blair abolished the death penalty for treason. You're more likely to get the death penalty now if you want to die. This is the thing. I think most of these MPs want to die. Maybe they're committing perjury on purpose. Maybe they're committing on purpose because they want the bill through so much that they're purposely breaking the law. Yet they've sworn an oath. This is the thing. We can't go on like this. These MPs, right, need to learn the rule of law themselves in the institution which they are elected to serve in, right? And they need to know what law itself is, right? And if the Speaker's chaplain can't do it, if the Lord Spiritual can't do it, I just don't know who can. Because, they're doing things that are illegal to the Constitution. They can't do anything they want. And implied repeal. A lad at the Electoral Commission came out, it's implied repeal. No, implied repeal is when you did actually make something into a law and it contradicts a previous law. That's implied repeal. Not that you haven't even made it the law yet, or Nigel Farage thinks it's a good idea to flaunt the election rules, and just cheat, so therefore there can't be any rules just because Nigel Farage is breaking them. Hey, how about, just because Keir Starmer's not abiding by the law, that doesn't imply that it's repealed, because he hasn't actually put any laws through yet which actually, contradict that. I think that the sexual discrimination is implied repeal, surely. So this actually is it. We need some action against these members, because they're actually breaking the law, and it needs to actually be acknowledged that it is illegal and unlawful. For what law actually is. The fundamental construction of law, the fabric of law, the essence of law, acknowledging what law actually is and where it's acknowledged and understood to come from. Otherwise, it means nothing, and the ceremony means nothing, and reading the oath out means nothing. It's all just a ritual for no sake at all.